Right. So in this exercise, we want to work on the top part. So I will just open the developer tools. You can open them by right-clicking anywhere and clicking Inspect or clicking View, Developer Tools, or the shortcut Alt-Command-I. Okay. So that's where I normally use the shortcut. And I use these developer tools in many ways. One way is that I take advantage of this size to move the size of the display of the viewport or change the width of the viewport. Okay, so you can actually see that if you check here the number, the width of the viewport, the rule is exactly firing, or the rules are exactly firing at 900 pixels wide. Okay, so we are making these changes and we are more or less happy with this. We still need to work a lot on this part here, but let's first work on the top part of the design. Okay, so you can see that you have two menus here and a social menu there and stuff like that. And one thing you could do is start making this smaller and check at what point does it need some makeup or does it need some fixing. For example, here these elements are starting to overlap, as you can see. So we could say something that like, if the screen size is smaller than, let's say, I don't know, 490 pixels or 500 pixels, something like this, okay? If the screen is smaller, then you definitely need to change some of this part to avoid this overlapping, okay? So let's write some rules to do that. And what we are trying to achieve, if you check the final design, they already changed the main layout. I do like it. So what you can see here is we want to do something like this, okay? So on smaller screens, instead of displaying these two menus and the social menu and everything else, we are just going to hide all that inside another menu. And we will use JavaScript for the interaction. So if the user clicks on this icon, we should just show this small menu here, and if he or she clicks that icon again, we want to hide it. So that's what we are going to be doing right now, okay? So first of all, we could do two things. We could change the way these menus look like. We could make another menu just for mobile. Both of the options have pros and cons. For example, if you wish to change the layout of these menus to instead of be there like horizontally and stuff, you want them more or less here on a vertical layout, then you need to change the CSS of those items, okay? Or you could create another menu just for mobile, and just as we did with these images, show or hide that menu accordingly, okay? We can do those two things. I think it will be easier for this exercise to have two menus. The bad thing about that is that if you change some menu, if you add a new entry here, you have to do that on those two menus, and don't forget that, because you could end up having one menu for desktop that have an item, and if you forget to put that on the mobile menu, if you open that web page on a mobile phone, you won't see that menu item. Okay, so please just be sure to add them on those two items. Okay, so let's start with that. First of all, we want to hide this menu here, this menu from here, and this menu here when we are on mobile all together, okay? So let's just check them out. If you open the index, if you go to the header, one is called socials, the one with these menus. One is called main menu, and the other one is called top menu. So let's hide all of these together. And basically what you normally do, you have most of the time at least 3 different layouts. One for desktop, one for tablet, one for mobile. On this case, we just have 2 layouts, one for desktop and one for everything else, right? So we are going to do that at the 900 limit here. So if the web page is less than, or the resolution of the viewport is less than 900, we want to hide all these menus and display the hamburger menu. That's how this icon is called, because it looks like a hamburger, so more or less. And we want to display that hamburger menu and make it work, okay? So the first thing we need to do is just hide these 3 things when we are in a resolution less than 900, Okay, so where should we write that? We should write that inside of here, right? Inside of our mobile styles. So I will just go to the bottom of the page, and just after this, I will just add something to, I don't know, hide the desktop menus, for example, right? So could we do that super easily? Just select them and put a display none on them, right? So the name of those things were class, they have class socials, main menu, and top menu. So let's select the three of them. So select the class socials, the class main menu, and the class top menu, right? I think that those were the names. Main menu, top menu, and socials. Main menu, top menu, and socials. And then what we want to do is what? Just display none. Right? Let me show you how it looks like, and then I can wait for you. So if you refresh this, you can see that at 900, they just disappear altogether, right? Because we don't want to show them, okay? What we do want to show is the hamburger menu, okay? So we need to add that into the HTML, hide it on desktop views, and show it on mobile views. So let's just add it. If you use the file I just uploaded to Blackboard, I already put that image there. It's called menu SVG, so that's the menu. It's just an image, okay? Nothing fancy out there. If you are working on your own files and you don't have that image there, you can just go and download any menu there. From where it's a good place to download icons, I have many pages, but I do recommend these two. One is called iconfinder.com. So you could look for, I don't know, menu. Look for the free items, of course. And then just use any menu you want to, and you have many options there for downloading. You can download the SVG or a PNG, okay? For these images, the SVGs are usually better because they are vector-based and less, the size of the image is smaller than this PNG, okay? There's another super nice webpage called the Noun Project. And in the Noun Project, you do exactly the same. You just look for a file, or menu, for example, in this case, and you get a super huge list of icons that you can later on download, okay? So you can use either of them to download an SVG in this case. I already downloaded this one and put it on the image folder. So let's add it to the index so we can see it. So let's open the index, and inside the header, that's where I want that menu. So let's add it anywhere. Let's add it here. Image source, image menu, right? And let's give it a class of mobile menu if you want to, or something like that. Okay? So if you refresh the web page, sorry, here, you will see that menu somewhere there, super awful, right? That's okay. Let's just change it CSS to make it look exactly where we want to, okay? So we have the class mobile menu. And if you need me to stop or make a pause, just please tell me and I can make a pause if I'm going too fast, okay? So we just added this and gave it a class mobile menu. Then I will go to my CSS and just play with it a little bit, okay? Basically what I want to do is in the desktop, I don't want to display this, so you could add it to, instead of here, you could add it here, right? So on the desktop, don't display that menu. And on the mobile, so inside here, you could add it here, right? Because we want to display this one and this one. So what this will just do is just hide it when we are on a big screen and show it when we are on a small screen. Okay? So basically we are hiding and showing the image accordingly to by using these media queries. Okay? Now let's just make it look beautiful there. So I will just do something like this. And I normally do it this way. If I don't really know where I want to put it, I just create the class here, okay, for that mobile menu. Then if you refresh this and you go to mobile and you right click on it and select inspect, let me just show you that here. I will try to zoom it out. So you have that image with that class, and as you can see, I already have here like an empty styles that I can work with, okay? This mobile menu, this empty line is exactly this one I created here. So I just want to play here with the values to make the icon look exactly how I want it to look and where I want it to look. So let's change its width to, let's say, I don't know, 70 pixels. That's fine. And then its position to absolute. Its top to 50%. Transform. So I'm just aligning it vertically by using absolute positioning, as we did sometimes. So transform, translate y minus 50%. So that will be center, and I am happy with the way it looks. If this will be smaller, that's perfectly fine. And how small should you get? Should you try it to look beautiful on this size? Of course not, because I don't know if anyone has a cell phone with a width of 160 pixels. The most used, the smallest, most used width of devices is 320. So that's why I'm looking at this at 320. Okay, and if it looks fine on that small space, then it works. You can see that. Let's make it a little bit smaller. Let's go 360 just for this case. Okay, and which resolution should you use? You should always look for the latest. Let me try to. I think I used to have some screen sizes benchmarking here. So this is for 2018. So you can see that the most used screen on the world right now is 360 times 640, which is a mobile screen, okay? And this is the most used desktop resolution. So we don't have specific numbers for this, right? But you can use this as a guide. So if we have a bunch of screen resolution that has a width of 1366 or 1920 or stuff like that. So you could try to guess the limits or the sizes where you want to change your layout. So normally we go on a number from 500 to 768 for mobile, from 768 to 1024 for desktop, and anything bigger than 1024, we consider it as a desktop, right? Okay. So if I am happy with the design, if I'm happy with the way it looks like, I will just make it a little bit smaller and add a little bit on the left. No, that's perfectly fine. So once I'm happy with the design, I just select this and paste it here, right? So I don't lose it. And now if I save this, if I refresh the web page, it will look just fine there. Okay? So now you can check that out. Let me just make this smaller for a second. So this is how it should look in desktop, and then the change to mobile. Okay? If you look at this on a mobile phone, then it will look something like this. So it's starting to work. I also want to change the header height because it's super huge. Right now it makes sense because I have a bunch of items there, but probably there it doesn't need to be super huge, right? And where can you check that? That's the header right there. And we used to have a fixed height of 210. So we can change that on the CSS, right? Just let's look if we have something with the header here. We don't. So let's just add it. It doesn't really matter where you add it, but I will try to add it before. It doesn't really matter. I just want to rewrite or overwrite this rule. So to overwrite something, you have to pay close attention to how you wrote that rule. Okay. So I wrote that rule by just writing header height. So if I want to overwrite it, I write it the same way. So header, and then I just want to overwrite the height. Let's make it smaller. Let's say 100 pixels. So now the header also changes, okay, from that to that size, and it looks a little bit better. Okay, so I'm rewriting or overwriting that height of that header. Yes? Okay, now let's design our mobile menu, and then finally we just add the JavaScript to show or hide that menu when the user clicks on this item. Okay? So first of all, let's design the menu altogether. We want to have something more or less like this. So which element should we use for designing this? Just a list, right? So lists work wonderfully for all kinds of menus or lists out there. So let's just create it here on the HTML. So we have these classes, and let's also create here a mobile menu, right? It could be a UL, it could be an OL, it doesn't really matter because we are going to get rid of the vignettes anywhere. So let's just add a bunch of menus. And we should have these three menus. So I will just copy these ones from here, and I will also copy these ones. Let's give those a class of, I don't know, submenu. So we can change their color later on, just as we did here, right? So we want to have like a hierarchy of items here. These are like the main items, and then we have a gray, light gray items, which are not as important as these ones, right? So that's why I created a bunch of listers, and I gave those a class of submenu, which later on I will use just to change the color, okay? And I will give a class or an ID, wherever you want to. This will be mobile. I already created a mobile menu, right? No, I didn't. So you could look for mobile menu. Yeah, I do have it. So let's just change this, or let's leave that as it is, and let's mobile menu list, for example, whatever you want to, okay? Now, again, we want to hide that on desktop, show it on mobile. So just add the necessary things. This is for adding it, okay? So we should also show the mobile menu list when we are on mobile and hide it here, right? So here, I'm just adding it. So it also gets hidden when I'm on a desktop and visible when I am on a mobile or a small screen resolution, okay? So let's just go here. That's the menu, okay? We are showing it there and hiding it there. Let's just add some CSS to it for it to look better. And we want, this is important, we want this header, that's the header, right? We want it to grow or shrink depending on if we are displaying or not that menu. So rather than give it a fixed height, let's give it a, let's give it a mean height, okay? So this is what I'm gonna do. To remove this height that I used to have, I will just write height auto, okay? What this does, it does remove this rule, but now the height is automatically calculated. So right now it's shrinking just to the size of the logo. I want it to be at least 100 pixels height. So I can specify a mean height of 100 pixels. That will show it at 100 pixels, but it will allow it to grow if it needs to, because I just specify a mean height, okay? So it cannot get smaller than 100 pixels height, but it can get bigger or higher or taller than that measure, okay? Nice. So now let's just design this menu accordingly. So let me just write some classes here. So inside the header, we have a mobile menu list, and that's the UL, right? And that UL also have a bunch of lead elements inside it. So this is the UL or OL, I don't know what I call it. This is the OL that has this class, and the other one are the list element inside it. So what I want to do is this list element should be vertical, so display block, for example. If you change that, the items will be on a block basis, as you have there, okay? And let's just play a little bit with the OL altogether. So the position will be relative. We want it below these items, so I will just change its position on the, yeah, it's already at the bottom of the header, so that's fine. The thing is that since this is absolutely positioned and this one is absolutely positioned as well, remember what happened when you change the position to absolute? That item gets removed from the document flow, so it's like if it wasn't there. If you remove it altogether, let's just remove it for 1 second. If I remove this and remove the image there, the design is exactly the same because the size of the header is being calculated based on this list, which has a position relative. Okay, so let's just play with that a little bit, with that list. Let's play with that here. So that's the whole list. And let's just change it. As you can see here, let's just change the padding to 0. The text align to left. Let's just, yeah, I'm happy with that. And then at margin top of how much do we need? Something like that. And we don't want this to be centered there, because if we do this, why are we having that there? We have that image. Where are you? Where are you? This image. Sorry, this image is being centered with a position absolute. And now the header. Okay, so we have a margin collapse problem there. Rather than adding a margin top, let's just add a padding top. Something like this. That works better. But still, we don't want this to move there. So instead of centering this logo and this menu, centering vertically based on the header height, I will just put them exactly there on that position. Okay, so I need to make many changes there. We want to change the logo and the height and all that. Okay, so let's just hide this altogether for a second. Display none. Okay. So what I want to do is, even when this header is super high, so let's say it's, I don't know, 300 pixels high, I don't want to center these two things vertically. I want them to be all the time here. Okay? So instead of centering them, this is my menu. Instead of centering it vertically like this, I will just give it a fixed position, something like a fixed position, right? So position absolute, and instead of this, I could just use, I don't know, top 20 pixels or something like this, so it stays all the time there, right? Maybe that's too much. Something like this works. And then we have the image as well that we want to change, right? So we could, what's the name of that image? The image is called logo with an ID. So we want to change some of this. So let me just copy that and paste it here. The width should be the same, the position should be the same, so we don't want to change that. The left should be the same, right? We don't want to change that. We do want to change the top value, and we want to change the transform, because the transform should only be now something like this, because we do want to center it horizontally by still using the position absolute, but now at the top we just want to, I don't know, 10 pixels, something like that. And now we have that, that's too short. Now that position is not affected by the height of the header, right? If we change the header height to, let's say, 600 pixels, that stays where it should be, right? So we can have this and 100 pixels. And now if we display this list, if we display it, I will just remove this. Now the list is making this header to be bigger or shorter, right? Now we just need to change that final mobile list that we were changing there. So text align left and padding 0, and then margin top of, let's say, 100 pixels. Sorry, a padding top. And you can see how I'm playing with that size, okay? So I'm happy where it looks like somewhere there. Let's add a bottom margin of some space there, so it's not flush at the end. So I'm happy with that. So I will just copy this and paste it here. Okay. And then with the Lee items, I will just add a padding, a margin of 20 pixels on the top and bottom and 0 pixels on left and right. So this will make this look a little bit like that. I do want to add a margin to the left. So 20 pixels on the top, 0 pixels on the right, 20 pixels on the bottom, and let's say 30 pixels on the left. So this will push this a little bit here. Okay? And now let's just change the color of these sub items. So it's super easy because I just paste this. And remember, I gave them the class of submenu, right? So the Lee items that have the class submenu, their color, their color will be a light gray. So let's use, I don't know, maybe a magenta. This is a light gray color, right? So now these ones looks a little bit lighter than these ones, okay? So I just went ahead and designed the list altogether. And now the final step is to show them or hide them when the user clicks on this item here, right? So let's do that all together. I can upload this file right now. If you want to work with the JavaScript with me, I think that's what we are going to do. So just let me pause the video for a second. So we have this file that it's kind of working well because we are showing this menu here and showing this other menu there. Okay, so it kind of works, but what we are still missing is the functionality of this hamburger menu. For that, we are going to be using JavaScript, but rather than using plain old JavaScript, which is called vanilla JavaScript, we are going to be using a library called jQuery. And what jQuery will allow us to do is write less code. Okay, because vanilla JavaScript is kind of verbose. You need to write lots of code for making one simple thing. And with jQuery, for example, selecting stuff or making things appear or disappear is more easy, and you need less lines of code. That's why we are going to be using jQuery. So how do we use jQuery? How do we add it to our project? Right now, we have this structure, right? We have an index, a folder for images, and a folder for CSS. We are going to add JavaScript to this file. So how do you use jQuery? You just grab the jQuery file, which is a JavaScript file, add it to your web page, just as you will add, I don't know, an image or a style sheet or something, and then you are able to start writing jQuery code on the page. So these are the steps. First, get jQuery, save it somewhere on your directory, and add it to your HTML file, and then you are able to write JavaScript jQuery scripts. Okay, so where do we get it? You just go to jQuery.com, of course, and you click download, and that's it. So that first part is super easy. Now, right now we have version 3.3.1. We are going to be using that version. So just click on this big button here that says download jQuery. This should take you to this page. Now, we have a bunch of downloads there. We want to use not the development phase, but the production, okay? Production means it's already tested and it shouldn't have many bugs on it, and you can use it, okay? So this is a JavaScript file. Now, if you click on it, two things can happen. The most normal is that the browser will ask you, where do you want to save that file? That's what we want to do. But if your browser opens that file, let me just open it here. If you click open that file, that's what you look at. So that's the whole jQuery library. It's minified, meaning they got rid of all the blank spaces, making it unreadable. It's fine because it saves file space or file size. And since we are never going to open that file or modify it on any way, we should use the minified version, okay? So as you can see here, it says jQuery, the version number, the min for minified, and JS. So we should save this file on our webpage. Where should we save it? In the image folder, in the CSS folder? None of them, right? Because it's a JavaScript file. So we are going to create a new folder there. Let's call it JS for JavaScript. And inside there, we are going to save that file. Okay? So what you can do is just if the file opened in your browser this way, you could just go File, Save As, Save Page As, and you will be saving the file. If you click on this, and okay, so it's by default in my browser, it opens the file. Let me go back there. If the file opens on your browser, you can just click Ctrl+S, Command+S, and just save it, because you are saving that jQuery min.js that you need to. So just go to the folder I just created, this JavaScript folder, this JS folder, which should be empty right now, and just save the file there. So click Save, you can close that. So inside the JS, you should have that jQuery hyphen 3.3.1.min.js. Okay? Should I wait for you or can I go on? Okay, let me pause the video. We have that file there. Of course, we can link it from the jQuery page, but we want to have it locally. So if at some point we don't have internet on our computer, the file should be there and we should be able to use it. Okay, so we have that file there. Let's just add it. Go to the HTML page and just add it. Normally, we add it inside the header, okay, or at the end of the file. Let's just add it in the header, in the head. Sorry. So just as we did with this, but for adding add jQuery file, for adding that, rather than using a link, we use the script tag because it's a script. Okay, the script tag. If you open a script tag, here you can write JavaScript code. So don't write this, but you could go window alert, hello world, of course, from JavaScript. This is vanilla JavaScript. And if I do something like this and just refresh my web page, I get an alert there that says hello world from JavaScript. So the code is being executed there. So you can write JavaScript inside script tags. You can also grab a JavaScript file there. That's what we want to do. We want to add the jQuery file, right? So instead of writing stuff there, what we are going to do is something like this. On the script, we can use the source tag that we already know. And we are going to tell it, go on the JS folder and grab that file. Okay? What that's doing, it's adding the jQuery file to our web page. So after this, we could do something like this and just write jQuery code there, because it will be, we are able to write things using jQuery since we already have the library added there. Okay? So first you add the jQuery library and then you are able to write jQuery code. Okay? So let's just leave it like this. It's a script tag. You should open the script tag and close it. And inside the opening script tag, you should write source, src, and just point it to your file, to the file you just downloaded from jQuery. That's it. So anytime I tell you, add jQuery to your website, this is exactly what you need to do. And that's it. Then let's just write some few lines of code to make this hamburger menu actually work. Sorry, this one here. Okay? So normally, we write the code at the bottom of the page. Why? Because we want to have the whole page available to start interacting with the items, okay? And we can change this later on. So just before closing your body tag, add a script tag there. And here you can write either simple vanilla JavaScript code, or you can also write jQuery code. So let's write our first jQuery, and I know most of you won't like this, but we have to type it anyway. So I try to be as clear or as simple as possible. So what we want to do is make this item clickable. Okay? The way we do it is we look for it using jQuery and add what is called an event listener. An event listener is something that is just waiting for events to happen. The event we want to listen for is which one? The click event, exactly. We want to listen to when the user actually clicks on this item. And when the user clicks on that item, we want something to happen. Okay? So first, let's just write the event listener and just print something on the console. And when we are writing JavaScript, we are going to be using the console quite often to debug the code. Okay? So how do you write jQuery code? The main symbol of jQuery is the $sign. Okay? This is a selector, as you can see. So this will help us to find stuff on the web page. Which thing do we want to find? We want to find exactly, where are you? This one, right? We want to find this mobile menu, right? And we want to listen to the event of somebody clicking on it. So How do we look for it? We can look for it with its class name, or we can give it an ID. Since it's the only item with this class name, we can tell jQuery, hey, go on or look for this item on the web page. So the class name is mobile menu. So we just write something like $, look for something with what? You can look for tag names, you can look for IDs, you can look for class names. Just as we do on simple CSS, it's just a selector, okay? So look for something with the class mobile menu. And then when the user clicks on them, execute this function. Now this is the horrible part of jQuery, but just remember this, and you can copy this, and you can open these files on your test, on your homeworks, and just copy that and use it. What it's doing, it's adding an event listener. We will execute this code whatever we write here will be executed whenever the user clicks on this item. Okay? So this is simple Java jQuery. I know it looks kind of awful because you need to remember these parentheses, these curly braces and stuff. Just look for it, okay? If you ever forget it, you can just Google jQuery click and just open the click event, go to jQuery page, and there you will see this is just the click event. It's better to use the onClick, and we can discuss that later on, but that's a little bit more advanced. But it's always better to use the on and then click. And there are different events you can listen to. You can listen for a click. You can listen later on to, if you use jQuery mobile, you can listen for swipe, zoom, pinch, or any other events. Okay, focus, on focus, etc. Okay. A voice, like a voice command. Well, you will need to turn on the microphone. The user will need to allow the microphone to go on, and then you could listen to the microphone event probably. Okay. So let's try that out. Do this anytime, every time you add a click event on something. Try it out before trying to make complicated stuff here. So what we want to do is actually show or hide this list here, right? But before trying that, let's just see if this is working. So let's just print something on the console whenever the user clicks on that item. So you just go console log, and then here you can write anything you want to. I don't know, I will just write user click or anything. So whenever the user, if this works, whenever the user clicks on this item, we should see on the console right here, this is a console, okay? We should see this text if it works. If it doesn't work, that means I did something wrong here and I should fix this before going further, okay? So let's try that out. Just save this, refresh the web page, and click on this item. And nothing is happening. So that means I did something wrong, okay? So how could we check that? Let's just right-click on it, inspect, and there I see the problem. So look, I was right-clicking here and clicking inspect, trying to see if I am really clicking on the menu item. But what got selected here? The list, because it has a padding. And the click event is being triggered at the padding of that menu item there. Okay? How could we change this? We can, right now I'm going to fix it on a super easy way. We are going to play with a property called the Z index. Okay? The Z index is the position of items on a web page. Think of as layer position on Photoshop. So you have a file there, or Illustrator if that's the case. So you have some layers there, okay? And this is the Z property, this is the top layer, and this is the bottom layer, right? So playing with the Z level is like dragging layers on top of some other layers, okay? So we want to have this menu item on top of this list, right? So let's just change its Z value. So let's go to the CSS, and it's called the mobile menu or something like that, right? Where are you? Where are you? Is this one, right? The mobile menu. So let's just add a Z index. By default, the browser specified the Z index values for us, but we can change them. If we specify a high number, let's just, I don't know, a 100. That's the only change I made, Okay, let's just save this, refresh it, right-click on it and click inspect. And now you can see that I am actually clicking on that item. So if I go to the console and click on it, now I do get my user click. So normally what happens is if you cannot see it, just right-click on it, click inspect, and actually check what are you clicking on, right? So the only change I made was on line more or less 267 on the CSS. I added a C index value for that item to make it go to the top of the layers, if you want to think of it like that, okay? So now I'm able to actually click on it, and anytime I click on it, I will get this message printed. So right now it's telling me I printed that message 8 times. And if you click on it again, more times, okay? So now we can go on and finish this, okay? So we don't want this to happen anymore. Instead of erasing it, I will just comment it. In JavaScript or jQuery, you can use this for normal comments, okay? So now if I click on it, nothing will show on the console, okay? But I know it's working because this text used to be displayed on that. So right now, we just want to show or hide the mobile menu list, okay? First of all, let's hide it all together. So when the user opens this web page on a mobile phone, we don't want this menu to be shown. So we can use CSS for that. It's our mobile menu list, right? And we don't want to show it. How do we hide it? Display none. So we will just write display none. This will hide it all the time. So if the user opens this on a mobile phone, in the first place, he won't be able to see that list. We want to change that as soon as the user clicks on this menu, right? So let's go to jQuery. So when the user clicks on this, we want to show that menu. What's the name of that menu? The name of the menu was, where are you? Mobile menu list. It's a class, okay? So let's use that. So again, using jQuery, the $sign, look for something. That's what that sign means. Look for something with the class, blah, blah, blah. And then you can do anything you want with it. You can change, for example, its CSS. You can add or remove classes. You can, I don't know, you can do basically whatever you want to do. So I hope everything is starting to come together. So we have HTML for the content, CSS for the design, and then JavaScript for changing both the HTML or the CSS any way we want to, okay? So what we want to do here, we write CSS a little bit different than we write it on normal CSS. So you write the property and the value in this case. Instead of writing it in simple CSS, we write the property, a column, and the value, right? On jQuery, we write the property, comma, and the value. So for example, you could do something like this. Change the display to block. Yes? So whenever the user clicks on this item will change its CSS and its property display will change to block. Right? So let's have a look at this. If I click on this, now I see the item. But the problem is that if I click again, I will never hide it because anytime I'm clicking on this, I will just show it and show it and show it. So that doesn't matter. Now, you could write some if statement and some complicated logic to check if the item was visible, then hide it. If the item was hidden, then show it. But jQuery makes this super, super easy for us. So we want to, for example, you can use some other methods in jQuery. You have the hide method. The hide method is the same as specifying a CSS display none. The show method is exactly the same as what we just did. So if you just click on it, the show method will just change the CSS display to block. We can use toggle. And what toggle does is just a toggle, right? So I don't know if this one will work. Yes. So a toggle is like a switch. If the item was visible, hide it. If the item was hidden, show it, right? And we have even a slide toggle to make things look super beautiful. So you can write slide toggle, and now we have this nice effect. Nice, right? Just by writing one line of code in jQuery. So we don't need, that's why I like to use jQuery in this course, because if we try to do this using plain old vanilla JavaScript, you need to write, I don't know, 10 or 15 lines of code, okay? And in jQuery, we just wrote, if I erase the comment, we have 3 lines of code. And it should work as expected. And you could check that on your cell phone if you open my IP address or just the server, okay? I will stop the video here since I'm not going to do anything else on this file.